Be silent! I put you on silent! Did you not? Remember your breathing? It's fine. We're fine. Hello, news takers. I'm your news giver, and this is a news-like show, but comedy. See, we're like a show that looks like the news, but it's actually kind of funny, but also researches and talks about the news. First of its kind. No other show is like this. Anyway, here's some news. Sure are a lot of false flags these days, huh? Let me rephrase. Sure are a lot of people claiming that things are a false flag these days, huh? That attempted Trump assassination, false flag. That other attempted Trump assassination, false flag. That other attempted Trump assassination, one assumes people think that's a false flag too. Boy, people really don't like him. Or don't understand that people really don't like him. Of course, it's not just Trump. Basically, any time a person fires a gun, somebody calls it a false flag. Those Minnesota assassinations of Democratic lawmakers, every mass shooting, of course, Ebola and hantavirus as well. Viruses are the guns of nature. Mitch McConnell's death, future death, unclear. Whatever his death, whatever's going on there, that's a false flag, probably too, in the future, unless it already happened, in which case it's a false flag now. Whatever. I mean, literally, I just had to silence my phone because Katy, you know Katy, she just keeps texting me the words false flag over and over. She calls everything a false flag. It's pages. I see it doesn't end. She called my beard a false flag. I'm not sure she knows what the phrase means. Hey, maybe she'll watch this episode. I mean, probably not. She doesn't watch the show. She called it Big City Ballyhoo for some reason. But if she did watch the show, this show, she'd see this episode, which is called What's the Deal with All These False Flags? Great question. Short answer, the internet. Case closed. Great talk. And I'm only mostly half kind of kidding there. The conversation about why blank is so much more blank these days can often, in this newsie's opinion, be at least partially attributed to the fact that everyone is just so much more connected with people who aren't in our physical proximity, which is neat and cool and also brings together a lot of niche interests, for better or worse. Like, hypothetically, back in the 70s, if a person was sexually attracted to marble statues, they'd just keep that information to themselves. They'd never get to meet the 104 other people who shared their secret desires. Now they're all on one message board, excited to meet up IRL for Stone Gooner Con 2026 at the Garden City Expo, Idaho. Hypothetically. And so if every town had at least one tinfoil hat guy, well, that's nearly 20,000 people who can now exist on X, the Stone Gooner app. You get it, you're smart and handsome. And of course, social media is just built for these conspiracy-brained people who are able to make everyone else start thinking like them, including some presidents. And maybe that's how this started. But as of last year, according to data from the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, false flag claims on Twitter have gone up over 1,100% since 2020. Everybody and your hot mother is now a tinfoil hat guy, it seems. So, what's happening? Is it just a buzzword, like how all the kids say "horping the worm" these days? Or is there evidence that recent events are, in fact, false flags? Are there any provable recent cases of false flags? What is a false flag? Not to get pedantic, but technically, historically, we're using the word wrong because false flag was originally used to describe a literal false flag that pirates would use to get close to another ship before suddenly swapping to their pirate flag and attacking. Not sure why they needed to swap the flag out at the last second, I guess for fun. You may notice that's the opposite of how we use it now, because the pirates weren't framing anyone with a fake flag, but using it to disguise themselves before revealing they were cool pirates. Again, for fun, one assumes. You didn't need to know any of that, but it's neat to know things. And of course, very quickly, someone was like, well, what if we just keep the false flag up when we attack and everyone will think it's someone else? Or better yet, what if we used the flag of someone we really wanted to start a war with and framed them? Not sure who I'm quoting, but I'm guessing they were British, probably. In fact, yeah, okay. I think they were more like, well, what if we just keep the false flag up when we attack and everyone will think it's someone else? Or better yet, what if we use the flag of someone we really wanted to start a war with and frame them? Or American, or whatever. Because one of the first accusations of a false flag was when the USS Maine was destroyed back in 1898, which prompted the Spanish-American War. That is, historically and traditionally, the point of doing a false flag: to covertly start a war you already wanted to do. For example, those Nazi fellows. Bad eggs, those Nazi fellows. Back in 1939, a group of SS soldiers took over a German radio station while disguised as Polish militants, announcing to listeners, quote, "The broadcasting station is in Polish hands." This was known as the Gleiwitz incident, and it was used by Hitler, if you heard of Hitler, to justify the invasion of Poland. God, you remember when you had to have a reason to invade another country? Not really, title monkey. Dare I say, 1940s Poland was not the days. Listen to me clapping back at something we wrote in advance. How brave am I? Very brave. Anyway, those Nazis did a bunch of other bad stuff as well, so this false flag event probably isn't talked about as much. And in fact, it seems like everyone got in on the action, most notably and predictably during the Cold War. Both Russia and the United States did it, of course. Real spy versus spy shit. False flags tend to be one of many tools used by operatives looking to destabilize a foreign enemy. Such was the case in the 1950s, in one of the many examples of the US screwing with Iran, when the CIA and British intelligence facilitated a coup through various methods, including a series of bombings done by Iranians pretending to be the Communist Party there. We're real pests in that place, huh? That was an operation called TP Ajax, which sounds like a sanitary pad for robots. And we only know about it because the CIA absolutely loves telling us the bad shit they did long after the fact. That's their my marble statue kink. And even with that, you can see how we sort of had other people do the dirty work. Although the CIA also did personally bomb at least one person's house while pretending to be commies. And so generally speaking, these false flags tend to be small in scale, a single house or a radio station, probably so there isn't too much scrutiny or too many witnesses. Less wag the dog, more Manchurian Candidate is my point. Which is why if, let's say, you wanted to start a war in the Middle East, a place the United States routinely starts wars with, backed by very flimsy justification, you probably wouldn't want to blow up two giant and beloved New York landmarks to do it. Or rather, you wouldn't need to, unless your goal was larger than simply starting a war, but rather to spiral a country into paranoia and self-destruction. In that case, I have great news for you. But this is why it's more likely that 9/11 was done by Al-Qaeda and not Dick Cheney, in my opinion. But this, of course, brings us to modern times, when the term false flag got significantly less fun. Because it was so fun before 9/11, I guess. But let's go to a break for ads, and then let's talk about the new dawn of false flags. The false flag saga, Breaking Dawn, Part 2.
I like a good glass of wine at the end of the day, but I never used to really know what to buy. I just grab whatever from the store and assume it had notes of apricot and velvety tannins. But as often as not, it turns out I was just holding a jug of distilled white vinegar. Any to the who. Then I discovered First Leaf, which makes the whole process easier. They match wines to my preferences and deliver them straight to my door. All I did was answer a quick quiz about my preferences, apricot, tannins, jug, etc. And now I get personalized selections I'm guaranteed to love. Each box also comes with easy to follow tasting notes and pairing suggestions. So whether I'm making pasta or just drinking a bottle of soy sauce that I thought was a dry Bordeaux, I know the perfect wine to pair it with, thanks to First Leaf. And unlike buying wine at the store, there is a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't love one of your delivered wines, they'll make it right. That's great. It's great. You always have the perfect bottle ready, and First Leaf just makes it so easy. So stop settling for wines that don't quite hit the mark. Head to tryfirstleaf.com/news to sign up, and you'll get 50% off your first box plus free shipping for an entire year. That's tryfirstleaf.com/news. No more pouring your dinner guests a bottle of vegetable oil that you thought was a particularly colorful Riesling. Just go ahead and try First Leaf, firstleaf.com/news. You'll like it.
Well, howdy, partner. Time for some more rootin', scootin', tootin'.
False flag!
Yeah! Hi.
Hey, maybe, I don't know, answer your texts? Look, I've been harping the worm about this little video you're making, and I do not approve.
So you do watch the show?
Well, I get Grok to watch it, and then Grok tells Warmbo to tell me about it. And he was telling me that Grok was telling him that you were telling people that 9/11 wasn't caused by aliens, which are actually demons who are everywhere. My friend Bobby told me demons make up like 90% of the prosecutors in this country.
Are you high right now?
Oh, golly, yeah. It's just too high, actually. High on a movie called Loose Change. Ever heard of it? Also, so much kratom. A little bit of peyote, too. Bobby said it helps cloud your chi so you can teleport.
Yup. Bye. Man, who's Bobby? Have I met him? Or is he just like...
Loose Change!
Oh my God.
See, for you kids watching, that was a documentary from 2005 about how 9/11 was actually a false flag. It was a huge hit at the time. Vanity Fair speculated that it was the first internet blockbuster. My buddy Mark Cuban actually attempted to do a distribution deal at the time. Everyone watched it, from Osama bin Laden, the patsy. He had a copy of Loose Change, which is why I keep telling you that this show should have been called Some More Loose Change. But you whined and you whined. Cody, we could have been rich, Cody. Rich like my friend Bobby. Oh no, the peyote is wearing off.
What the... Wait, where did... What? Hey! What? Okay, well, thanks, Katy, for your insight into that. She's not wrong, I guess. Not about the peyote, although I guess she was right about that too. What I mean is that whatever you believe about 9/11, Loose Change signaled to the world that conspiracy theories were a very lucrative business. I mean, Alex Jones certainly figured that out. He called 9/11 a false flag on 9/11, which at the time got him kicked off scores of radio stations. For you kids, radio stations were unskippable podcasts that were really important up until the internet came along. I mean, boy, the rise of the internet and 9/11 at the same time, that is a match made in hell. Because obviously, Alex Jones would go on to become highly successful starting in the 2010s. For better or for worse, the internet made it possible for anyone to say anything they wanted and make money, because there was no one to pull the plug. Unless you're doing literal crimes, you could just host a web page and people would go to that web page. It was neat and cool, and boy, weird that social media companies and Google kind of ruined that, and we're back to the old model where we're all at the mercy of a few corporations. But for a decade or so, it was a pretty sweet fuck around era, sharply descending into an indefinite find out period. Because while 9/11 truthers stuff was almost novel at first, there's the obvious disrespect toward the victims. Not that they were denying their deaths, but rather trivializing them and turning them into this scandalous conspiracy entertainment. I don't think people thought about it that much at the time, but as we rolled into 2012, the idea of false flags got way less fun. This is, of course, when the Sandy Hook shooting happened, and Alex Jones decided to yodel on about so-called government-paid crisis actors and called this horrific event a false flag. This would, of course, lead to the specific find out era for Alex Jones that we won't get into. But needless to say, it was satisfying.
Alex Jones' stunning admission came during a contentious cross-examination.
It's 100% real.
Finally conceding the Sandy Hook school shooting did happen. After years of insisting on his InfoWars show, the massacre was a hoax.
How could you believe any of it? It's 100% real.
They had fun editing that. But this isn't about the Potato Man. There were two very important differences between Sandy Hook and the 9/11 conspiracies. First number, it wasn't enough to say the government did it. They had to deny the existence of the victims, and as a result, deny objective reality. And second number, the false flag conspiracy had an internal political motivation, meaning that Jones and others claimed it was a false flag specifically conducted by Democrats in order to push gun control laws. Gun control laws that, you might notice, didn't happen, haven't happened, won't be happening. Bad false flags, I guess. Anyway, this is different from saying that Bush did 9/11 to start a war, because everyone in power loved the war, Democrats included. And the suspected motivation there is to wage war on another country, something a false flag was traditionally used for. But Sandy Hook was the first time a popular false flag conspiracy was directed at one political party accused of trying to do something partisan to our own country. It was a false flag accusation as a political tool, because Alex Jones is a political tool in more ways than one. He is, and always was, a right-winger playing the role of a conspiracy theorist. So instead of us against them, it was Democrats against Republicans. Us versus us. And also, as an aside, and not to be catty or anything, but if we're talking about which party was doing what, the only provable example of a false flag attempt around this time was when a Republican activist and deputy prosecutor emailed the then governor of Wisconsin and suggested he hire someone to attack him and then blame it on the teachers union protesters. So, no Democrats. But also, in fairness, the governor didn't take his advice and that guy resigned. Not gonna pretend like the Democrats aren't also capable of being underhanded and vile, but also, right now, objectively speaking, one party is actually pretty pro-crime. It's hard to be like, oh, both sides are bad, when the Republican president had his own DOJ declare his entire family forever immune to tax audits. Hey, remember when he said he'd totally share his tax records? Then he sued to not have his tax records revealed, and now he's like making laws called the Never Show Trump's Tax Records Act of 2026. Anyway, so creeped the era of false flags and other conspiracy theories being used by powerful people as a casual political tool, no different from kissing a baby. Because the other convenient thing that Sandy Hook taught us is that calling something a false flag is a very handy way to deny a harsh reality. You see, because if it never happened, then there's nothing to worry about. Kids aren't being shot in elementary schools. Thank goodness I can still sleep at night without reflecting on the state of the country. After all, there's a very obvious reason why people only believe in false flags when it absolves the things they believe in. It's just taking the concept of denial and adding lore, right? If you're a Republican who thinks that, for example, those 2025 assassinations on Democratic lawmakers were a false flag operation, then good news, you don't have to worry about examining the violence in your own party. Sandy Hook taught us that this is way more viable than we thought. People can just say, that didn't happen, and enough people will go along with it. Like this.
Now we're being hindered by the Russian hoax. It's a hoax, okay?
There he is, King Potato Man. It's hard to even remember what with the fog of time, but Trump sort of started politically as an Alex Jones-esque conspiracy fool. There was the whole birther stuff about Obama that at the time was largely laughed at. He was a racist clown pissing his pants at the airport, who then somehow got in the cockpit. His entire run-up to power was fueled by conspiracy theories about the deep state, which conveniently set the stage for everything that's going wrong. Because if everything is a false flag and hoax and conspiracy against him, well then that sets up a built-in excuse for every crime he gets caught doing. Like, yeah, the FBI did in fact do surveillance on his 2016 campaign, and that really sounds like deep state shit, right? Like, wow, the FBI spying on a presidential candidate. I guess they are out to get him like he said, or perhaps they were worried that people on his team were possible Russian assets, because he's a business ghoul who owns hotels around the world. See, they're not going after him because of tax fraud or regular fraud or just name a crime. No, it's because the deep state wants to take him down before he takes them down. He planted that seed nice and early, didn't he? False flags and conspiracies were a brilliant tool in today's internet age to grift your way into power. Once you're in power, it's a little trickier, as Trump's now learning. Because it turns out that all those assassination attempts on Trump, false flags. It turns out that when you condition your base to think only in conspiracy theories, well, there's no going back from that. Trump basically rose to power by screaming, "Viva la revolucion!" And then once he got the big seat, he was like, okay, well, everyone, back to work, which is why his most conspiracy-brained followers are now turning against him. It was a thing we all knew and tried to warn people about, which was that Trump just wanted to be rich and powerful and was saying whatever to get there. Because he's a liar. And in fact, I think one of the main reasons why everyone thinks everything is a false flag now is because, well, he's a fucking liar. The president is an obvious con man who does obvious crimes and has endless ties to shadowy rich weirdos and fucking pedophile sex traffickers. It's hard to trust anything he says or does. It's actually quite ironic considering that Trump basically pandered to people who thought the government was run by secret pedophiles and in a way delivered on that promise. Congratulations, QAnon, you have your pedo deep state cabal finally. How convenient that Q pointed specifically at Democrats and absolved Republicans of any involvement despite them, kind of being involved. Trump is currently trying to build a secret bunker under the White House. But believe it or not, this isn't about Trump either. Not fully. I mean, it is, but there's more to it that we're going to discuss. So let's go to a break first and then come back from the break and then talk some more words about stuff. Saturday morning, Cody loves to have a quick brekkie, do the crossword, berate the puppet, and then head into nature for a leisurely hike. But sometimes, Friday night Cody's behavior makes Saturday morning Cody's plans a bit more complicated. So I added Z-Biotics pre-alcohol to Friday night Cody's agenda to take back the power from Big Him. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Also, stay hydrated generally. Now, Friday night Cody gets to do his thing, responsibly of course, staying hydrated and so on and all that sort of stuff. And Saturday morning Cody gets his hike and kombucha or whatever. All the stuff. And Wednesday afternoon, Cody only has to be reminded of their existences when I read about it on a teleprompter. So head to zbiotics.com/more news and use the code more news at checkout for 15% off. That's zbiotics.com/more news, code more news at checkout for 15% off. Don't let the other yous ruin the time of the rest of your yous. Use the time yous have however yous want. Responsibly.
TV. There's nothing like it. Well, movies, I guess. Movies are similar to television, but did you know you can get both movies and television on your TV now? Hey, it's the 90s. Jump into a whole new world of free entertainment on Pluto TV. They've got all the action-packed summer blockbusters you could want, all the sluts you can flimp. Glop like Top Gun, Maverick, Transformers, Rise of the Beast, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Locust 2, Swarm of Destiny, Mollusk 5, The Shell of Calcarium, Mud 4, The Muddening, PCP at the CDC, Extra Strength, Tylenol, The Day of the Sponge, a fan recording from 1997 of the Waterworld Live Sea War Spectacular at Universal Studios, Lead with a Head, The Boy with a Lead Head, The Digital Dinghy, The Stench from the Trench, Finding Piscopo, and Buggle Butt. Find your favorite fighter pilots, bounty hunters, alien invasions, heists, heroes, mean girls, dream girls, scheme girls, scoundrels, ragamuffins, and single-celled organisms on Pluto TV all summer long. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never. Pay never. You don't pay. You stream it and you don't pay.
Hello, chap. Why, I'm just chuffed in it that we're a chunder with those ads, Chim Chimney.
Shazam!
Blimey.
Cody, buddy, how you been? Shh, do not answer. Did Wormbo hear, Grog hear that you think Trump's assassination attempts aren't a false flag?
I mean, I didn't actually say that, but yeah.
Cody, you stupid little lamb, Cody! Come on, Cody, you stupid lamb, Cody! Don't you think that it's weird that there have been so many attempts on Trump's life? People shooting at the White House and such. I mean, how often does that ever happen? Like, okay, did people shoot at the White House when Clinton was president besides that one time? Or plan to kill him while he was out jogging besides that one time that it happened? Or tried to bomb his motorcade besides that one time it happened? Or send pipe bombs to the Clintons and the Obamas, or I don't know, everything in this very long Wikipedia page about assassination attempts against Obama?
I can't tell if you're being earnest or not, so I
don't even know, man. I just owe so much on my taxes this year. Can't we just do like a little bit of conspiracy pandering? But like just for the grift, for money. Oh, we could like false flag you or something. Bobby said that. Wait. Damn it.
where do you keep going? What? So the show's getting weird again, I guess. We're back to that. That's fine. Anyway, Katie's right. Again, it's not as if attempts to assassinate the president are that uncommon. 4 presidents have been murdered in office, after all. That's almost like 10% of presidents. That being said, it's not every day that a bullet fucking whizzes by the president's face on camera. Though he wasn't president at the time either. Anyway, I hate it when people say blank isn't true, but the fact that people think it's true speaks volumes. But as I said before the break, it does speak volumes that so many people do think these are false flags. Because he's a liar, and you wouldn't put it past him to suggest faking an event like this to anyone within earshot. It is very much the case with the modern GOP, but with Trump specifically, that he just projects. He accuses everyone of things he does or wants to do. So if you have somebody constantly accusing everyone of false flags and of paying protesters and all that, it becomes easier to see something and go, oh, the false flag guy is trying to do a false flag. But also, I think one of the subconscious reasons why has less to do with Trump and more to do with right-wing politics. A lot of politicians on both sides love to leverage tragedy to push policy. You could argue that when a mass shooting happens, there are Democrats who use that to push gun reform. But I would argue that gun reform is sort of a natural place to go as a response to a shooting. As we've seen, other countries have done that in response to mass shootings. Generally, when a disaster happens, it makes sense for people to push reforms that might prevent that disaster. But with conservatives, especially lately, their tactic has been to scapegoat something that didn't really have anything to do with the disaster. Going back to 9/11, while it probably wasn't an inside job, the Bush administration did use it to go after Saddam Hussein. A bad guy for sure, but who had nothing to do with the attack on the World Trade Center. It makes sense to think that Trump would do a false flag because, well, he and his party have a long history of leveraging fear to attack a group of people they always wanted to attack. They use any crime to scapegoat immigrants in this country, trans people as well. Heck, they used a pandemic to drum up fear over China. They are the masters of fear manipulation and use every tragedy the same as a false flag when convenient. A white guy does a mass shooting, that's a false flag to take our guns and demonize whitey. A trans person shoots somebody, well that's the dangers of trans people. I'd argue they do this no matter what. Like, yes, Trump used the White House Correspondents' Dinner to push the need for his ballroom. But honestly, if that hadn't happened, he would have used something else. He would have used a Kimmel monologue if he had to. They are the ultimate cry bullies, after all. They don't need to manufacture disasters when they can just lie constantly about the disasters that do happen. It's what they do. It's what they've always done. Someone blew up the World Trade Center and they were like, well, that does it, and attacked a completely unrelated enemy. It kind of cheapens the actual conspiracy and manipulation that happened to pretend like they orchestrated the whole thing, when the reality was that they used a terrible event to continue decades of screwing with the Middle East and to justify an invasion. Again, I ask, remember when we had to have a reason to invade another country? No, you're right this time. 9/11 were the days. We had all those Spider-Man movies. Not like today. We've said it before on this show. I think that people in power largely benefit from conspiracy theories because they often distract people from actual conspiracies. It was only a matter of time before someone rose to power on a conspiracy theory platform. Trump and the corporate world around him have created an entire country of QAnon people at this point. Every news organization appears to be owned by a billionaire. Social media is filled with AI slop. On the right wing, you have Trump's wild conspiracy base, which includes Trump himself. And on the left, you have people who understandably don't trust a fucking thing the White House says. And so we have an environment of people on every side just throwing the words false flag back and forth, which directly benefits the people in power. Because if everything is a false flag, then nothing is. And if everyone is busy talking about conspiracies, then nobody focuses on the bad stuff. As we were writing this episode, the White House website posted this Angel Fire-ass throwback page, clearly written by ChatGPT, that looks like it's talking about extraterrestrials. But the, I guess, joke is that they're actually talking about all the immigrants they've pulled from their families and deported, which kind of perfectly sums up their entire tactic. Going back to Alex Jones and Sandy Hook, that was the power there, to make all of us fight over reality while they picked our pockets and kidnapped our neighbors. Like, I don't know, maybe this entire use of the term false flag is in itself a false flag. That gives me a headache to say, but most things give me a headache these days. What I mean is that we've mentioned the term imperial boomerang on this show before. Otherwise known as the phrase, fascism is imperialism turned inward. Well, going back to the history of false flags, as I said, they're traditionally used by one country to screw with another country, blaming communists in Iran, framing Polish insurgents, and so on. And so perhaps as we learned more and more about the way the CIA has treated other countries, we've naturally wondered if they also treat us that way. Like if you saw your spouse punch the mailman, you'd start to wonder if they'd punch you, you know? And that's certainly been the case with the other stuff the Trump administration and America in general have been doing. Masked goons, militarized police, detention centers. So why wouldn't they do covert CIA PSYOP missions on us as well? It's logical, right? And I don't know, a really easy and good way to do that is to make everyone lose trust in the news and second guess every event, ultimately landing on whatever conspiracy theory supports the people in power. So in a way, all these false flag theories about Trump are at least a step in the right direction, because at least it's going back to the us versus them mentality of pointing conspiratorial thinking at the people in charge. We'll never get rid of conspiracy theories, but we can at least reclaim them for the common person and reject politicians who try to join in on them. Like how we refuse to let studios harness the Morbius memes, you know? We gotta Morbius them. I guess what I'm saying is 9/11 was an inside job. Wait, that feels like the wrong conclusion.
Hey, Scruff, you doing okay? You mad that I have jumper powers now?
Where are you?
Down south at Bobby's bungalow. Hey, listen. So, Grok told Warrenbo, who told me that you finally came around on 9/11.
I didn't really... Who is Bobby? When did we add a new character?
No, you don't know him. Bobby Durst? Old friend. I used to send him wigs. Anyway, I really can't talk too long. Bobby's having RFK Jr.'s uncle and Quatch over for some beach volleyball using Hitler's head. But gosh, Cody, I'm so happy to hear that you're starting to, question things. Lot of shady stuff going on out there. Keep watching those skies, buddy. You know what I mean? Okay, all right. I'll send you an autograph.
No, wait, I have too many questions!
Bye.
Damn. She sent me a picture of her autograph. That's nice, I guess. She also sent me a picture of my autograph in her handwriting, which I think the right word for that is forgery. She sent me a forgery of my own signature. You just gotta let it happen. You just can't do anything about this. I wanna be Jumper. Do a jumper effect on me. Ah! Wowee! This is the end of it. Thanks for watching.
Hey! Wowee! This is the end of it. Thank you for watching.
Like and
subscribe to the channel.
Leave a comment.
We've also got a Patreon with things for Patreon. We've got a merch store. Cody, you feel free to chime in anytime.
Anytime.
I may do all the work.
Okay, well, okay.
We've also got a podcast called Even More News, starring me and Cody and Jonathan, who's almost always there. Again, buddy, anytime.
You can.
Right on
this is on the channel. Some More News is also on
the channel,
you can listen to the podcast if you want.
If you want to, you can watch it. You can listen to it.
We have merch at a merch store. You did okay. Well, it's hard to keep up because I'm trying to. You leave space for me, and then I'm not trying to. It's fine. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. Let's go work on your jumping powers.
You can teach me that?